Today, God has come here to visit us. Amen. How many of you believe this? God has come here to visit us. So, when will someone visit us? When will someone visit us? When? Huh? When we are sick, they will visit us. Then? Huh? Any functions in our home, they visit us. Okay, then? When the result comes, they will visit us. Okay? They will visit this functions, of course. What you said? Sickness. Then any promotion, they will come and visit us and congratulate us. Sorry. Any vacation, they will come and visit us. So there are a lot of things for the reason for people to visit us. So God has come here to visit us, and He also has a purpose to visit each and every one of us. So our God never fails to visit us. People might fail to visit us sometimes. Sometimes we will be in touch with some group of people or some people. After few years or few situations, they will be a little away, or we will be a little away from them. And when time goes by, all the relationship, the small gap grows bigger, right? It grows bigger, and there won't be any touch with them, because we will be busy in our work and they will be busy in their work, and we won't visit for quite a long time. So it doesn't matter where we are stuck in our lives. It doesn't matter in what situation we are in. So it doesn't matter in what place we are caught up. So God is going to visit you and me. Amen. So it doesn't matter to God. Okay, He's in this situation. Okay, I am just going to escape from this. No, He's anyhow going to come and visit each and every one of us. So we must all have such faith in God, and our faith will never go in vain. We must have that faith. Okay, God is going to visit me in this morning, visit me in this English service, visit me at home, He's going to visit me in my school. Okay, He's going to come along with me. So I am having that full faith in Him. So we must all seek this. We must all have faith like this. Okay, God is going to visit me today. So in each and every day, we must have this in our minds. Okay, today, Monday, okay. Tomorrow you will all wake up and you will all go to school. And just after you wake up from your sleep, just think this in your mind. Okay, today God is going to visit me. So this is what faith is. Okay, trusting God. Okay, God is going to do something. He's going to visit me. So may God help us to move forward in our spiritual journey, and may His Holy Spirit minister to us powerfully this morning. So sometimes in life, there will be a time where we will all make a move. There will be a time where we will all make a move from one place to another. Okay, in life I am talking about. Of course, we move from one place to another in vacation or in a holiday, any time. So weekends, okay. So not just a physical move from one place to another, but in life, we would definitely move from one place to another, one situation to another situation, and of course, one standard to another standard. So we will all have a moving part, a moving factor in all our lives. And this moving on from one to another thing is not an easy task. So how many of you have changed your home? How many times have your parents changed your home? This one time, okay. 2 times. How many times did your parents change the location of your home? It's uncountable, or some quite a few times, okay? So, okay, 4 to 5 times, okay. So when you go from one place to another, how does it feel? How does it feel? So, okay, what all you will have in the previous area or in the previous home? You will have friends, area friends. Then you will have one friendly shopkeeper. Okay, that Anna or that Akka would be very friendly with us. So we will miss them. We will miss the area friends. Then what all we miss? Huh? Family friends. Okay, someone close to that house would be very thick, and we would somehow say goodbye and we will move on. Then what all you miss there? Some situations or some structures. So in the previous home, you would have had a big room, and now coming to another place, you find not so similar thing, but a different thing. But you need to get adopted to that situation. So several things are there. So when a boy or a girl has changed their location, changed their home, it is very hard for them to leave everything there and to come to another place and get adopted to that new area, place, or situation. So it's very hard, okay? So you too, your parents would have vacated very earlier. So maybe in your small age. So you would have missed, but you could not recognize what you missed today. So, but you miss some part, or else your parents would miss some part. Maybe that previous home would be easy for their workplace or for your education place. But now, the new setup for moving to one place to another, it not always makes a good move, but sometimes it may become frustrated moment. So, from one place to another, from one situation to another, from one standard to another. So, this is not an easy task. When we vacate home, what we do? We just empty all racks, all our shelves, all our bureau, and we all pack everything. Just put wrappers and things and put it in cotton box. And we used to take that big bundle from one part to another part, right? We also shifted our home, and of course we faced a lot of challenges. Things were very heavy, and we suffered a lot. So it's not easy to move from one place to another, okay? So we all have a strong support behind us. It can be anything. Sometimes we have a strong support, a strong background. So it can be a person, your parents, or anything, any talents that pushes you front. So we might feel like, okay, I'm now in a good situation. I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. Everything is okay around me, and everyone is good. I am good. Well, okay, fine. But time will come when it changes so badly. Time will come when all these, okay, I'm good. I'm doing well. All these things becomes, okay, I'm facing some kind of trouble. I'm facing some kind of challenge in my life. So all these positive things might change or will change definitely at a particular point of time in our lives. So sometimes it might change badly, or it might change a little not so good. So it might unexpectedly change the situation, and that pulls us down sometimes. So sometimes it is very hard to make a move from one circumstances to another circumstances. Supposing your teacher has bet you, okay, scolded you. It is very hard for that student to move from that situation, from that circumstance to another one. Because the next day, when he's going to see his teacher or his tuition master, anyone, that thing, that beating or that scolding would come before the mind or eyes. So it is very difficult for every one of us to move from one circumstance, from one good circumstances to another, or from one bad circumstances to another. It's very hard. So this moving factor is not at all an easy one. It is not at all a good part in most people's life. So in life, we would have come across such situations. You all would have faced some kind of similar kind of challenges in our lives, in your lives. So moving from one journey to another. Supposing, yes, a good example is leaving of the old school and going to another different location, a different zone. It's very hard, right? So in the older school, the previous school, you would have had a lot of friends with you. Teachers would be very friendly with you, kind of thing like that. But after you come to the new situation, the new school, you will feel everything strange and every people as a stranger and every situation as, okay, what I'm going to do this. So it is very difficult to move from one school to another. The same way, whether from moving from one home to another home or from one school to another school, it is not a difficult task. I mean, difficult. It is a difficult task. It's a very difficult task. So, at that point of time, at such points of time, every hope gets darkened. You would have hoped a lot. Okay, I'm going to do this. You would be hoping on something else. But as soon as things change, your hope gets darkened. Before that, full brightness, and now slowly it gets darkened. And also every faith gets shrunken. All faith, you would have had a lot of faith in God, and suddenly the new environment, it just shrinks all your dreams, all your visions, things like that. And every possibilities gets faded away. Sometimes you must have thought like this, okay, this thing is at hand. I'm going to definitely do this and finish this. But as soon as you find a difficult thing, all these possibilities slowly gets faded away. All your hopes gets cut down, and all your dreams gets into nothing, becomes nothing, things like that. So even though we go down in such situations, even though we change from one place to another, one situation to another, one journey to another journey, still God comes there and works things in our lives. He is able to adopt situation just like us. He is also coming with us, and He is also changing things in our lives. He is also able to do that. So see, our God is an omnipotent God. What is omnipotent? We're all studied in your science. Omnipotent. What is omnipotent? Omnipotent means a thing that its presence would be everywhere. Okay? Its presence would be everywhere. Only one great example of omnipotent is our God. He is everywhere. Suppose you take a light and just on your torch. How far that light reach? How far it reaches? Till a certain distance. Okay? In how many of you have visited this lighthouse? Lighthouse in Marina Beach. There will be one big siren-like thing, and it will just go from one direction to another direction. Lighthouse. It provides a huge amount of light, so that with the help of that light, people who went inside the evening will be able to come out by just tracing the light in. Okay? So even though the lighthouse is so tall, it gives light till many kilometers inside the sea, it cannot be seen from the other country, right? Can the Sri Lankan people see our lighthouse? Definitely not. Can we see their lighthouse? No. Same like the other countries. We cannot see their lighthouse, the light from here, and they cannot see the light from the lighthouse from their country. So even though it is tall, the visibility is for a certain level. So it's not omnipotent. It just fades away in certain place. Okay? But our God is an omnipotent God. He's everywhere. He's everywhere, which means He's on earth as well as at the same time He's on heaven. He's in heaven as well as inside of us. He's in the Milky Way. What all you call it? The galaxy? What all? Our universe. Then planet. any kind of thing, okay? He's everywhere. His presence is everywhere. That is why our God is omnipotent God, which means His presence is seen or felt everywhere. So He's above planet, He's above universe, He's above you and me, He's above this earth, He's above the heaven. Though He's a great God, His presence can be felt throughout the place, throughout the universe, throughout everywhere. So that is why He's called omnipotent. So from the Bible we will meditate one important incident that will teach how God works in midst of challenges. Even though we are in a great challenge, we are in a challenge of doing something or caught up, stuck up in some places. So how God visits us, that's today's message. Let us turn our Bibles to Genesis 21, Genesis chapter 21, and look at the incident. Genesis chapter 21. You see, Abraham and Sarah had a baby and his name was called Isaac. So last week message, how many of you remember that? What we meditated? Abraham was the father of faith. He was titled as father of faith. Then just give the answers. That's all you remember, or? Yes, he obeyed God and he traveled. Then, is that you forgot the message, or you forgot that I took the message? Then what else? Okay, let me just continue with that. So we saw Abraham and Sarah, and they were very faithful. They came from one place to another, and God gave them a son, and the story goes by. Last week we saw how Abraham was so obedient to God's voice that he picked up his son Isaac and went to offer him on the mountain where God showed Abraham to sacrifice his only son Isaac. He obeyed and he went there with a faith, and God tested his faith, and finally he certified that, okay, now I understood that you fear me. And they both came offering a lamb there. So that's what we meditated. So today we are going to look at the earliest stage of Isaac. So last week's message was Isaac was a youngster, was a matured person. Like now today's message is all about Isaac's very childhood, that baby stage, that kind of thing, or the teenage or the little child boy, that kind of age. Okay, even more previous incidents that we are going to meditate. So Abraham and Sarah was very, very happy because Abraham was given a promise, and finally, after all the thing, both the couples were very, very happy because God gave Abraham and Sarah a boy child, was called Isaac. So Abraham was 100 years old when he got Isaac. It was 100 years, but still God provided a boy baby to that couple. So just reading from verse 1 to 7, it says, 21, 1 to 7. Now, the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, as the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age. At the very time God had promised him, Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son of Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Finally, she says, and she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, yet I have borne him a son in his old age. So, what's the crisp of this part is that Abraham and Sarah begotten a son. His name was Isaac, and God did what he promised. Now just look at me, turn with me to our main subject for today is verse 14 to 20. Verse 14, it says, early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and then sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. Now we see Abraham took some food, a skin of water, just two things, and gave them to Hagar. So Abraham prepared everything and got ready to do something. So this Hagar was a servant of Abraham and Sarah. After years passed, this servant Hagar bore a son to Abraham. It's just quite confusing. What happened before? How Hagar bore a son to Abraham? Okay, when we look at the background, it says, when God called Abraham, he called Abraham, you need to leave off your country, leave off your father's things, belongings, you just come, follow wherever I lead you, just come to that place. And Abraham just obeyed God's voice, his calling, and left everything for God and took his wife and Lot, his nephew, and just came wherever God showed him. And God promised Abraham, telling that, Abraham, I'm not simply calling you. I'm making a promise with you. I'm making a covenant with you. I'm going to give you a son, a descendant. I'm going to give you an offspring. He was like, my God, at this long old age, you're going to give this? And God just promised very, very truthfully, and he said, yes, I'm going to give this. So all the promises that Abraham received from God, he held it on in his heart. And time passed and years went by. Still no promise was fulfilled. For many, many long years, the promise was still kept in the shelf. Like Abraham and Sarah waited for a very, very, very long time. But nothing happened. All the beliefs and hope for a child decreased. Mainly for Sarah, everything got decreased. Okay, this promise is okay. Somehow God is going to do with some other women, some other people, in some other family. Okay, we are not going to get a child. Okay, because we are old and we have nothing. So Sarah decreased her faith. But we see Abraham was still holding on to that faith. But immediately Sarah advised Abraham, telling that, see, you and I are old, very old. But God promised you that you will have a son. So what she told to Abraham, Sarah, what she told to Abraham was, maybe this servant, Hagar, through this woman, God might give you or give us a child. Why not in this way? So and Abraham also got stuck with this point, and he was thinking, and so this servant Hagar was given to Abraham to bore son, to bore offspring. So Abraham did not inquire God. He did not ask God, this is how Sarah is leading me or guiding me, what can I do? He never asked God at that time. He blindly followed Sarah's advice and bore a son to Hagar. Now coming back to verse 14, the second part, it says like this. After he gave them food, Hagar food and a skin of water, he set them on her shoulders and then sent her off with a boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. So, we clearly see here, he set them on Hagar's shoulder. What all? The food and the water skin, he just placed on the shoulder of Hagar. And he sent Hagar away and the little boy. Okay, it will be a little confusing. I will just clear it. First, Abraham and Hagar begotten a son. This Hagar was a maid, was a servant to Abraham and Sarah. Sarah waited for a long time, but she couldn't believe that okay, at that age God will do a miracle. She totally forgot what God said. She did things on her own, and indirectly she went somewhere and advised a bad advice, gave a bad advice to Abraham. So the servant became Abraham's helper in getting a child. So that is, and also this Ahar's child, it grew day by day. Still now, Abraham and Sarah did not have any child. That promised child did not come up. But another pattern of child just grew. So, why Ahar with her child was sent off by Abraham? When we take this and when we meditate this, the reasons are, verse 8:13 it says, the child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. So it says like this, when the promised child was born, when God, after this Ahar and Abraham's incident, later then God fulfilled that promise through Abraham and Sarah to their lives. So to this couple, God, what all he promised, he brought it into reality. So Abraham and Sarah finally got a son, and that son just grew bigger. And Abraham kept a very great feast, and he did a lot of things. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had born to Abraham was mocking. You see, the previous son, Ahar's son, was mocking at this little fellow, Isaac. This elder son was mocking at this younger son. Don't know what he mocked. Maybe looking at this childishness or any kind of thing. But this wounded Sarah. The servant's child is mocking the owner's child now. So this thing troubled Sarah a lot. Till then, Sarah was very tolerating or very patient with Ahar, and now she couldn't control that anger, and she immediately called Abraham and said, "Get rid of this woman, this servant girl, and just send her off and send that child, that old child, send her along with her, and let them go anywhere. I don't care." And even God tells that, okay, what all Sarah tells you, do that. God also supports Sarah there at that point. And finally, Abraham obeyed that also. So now Ahab with his son, young son, he was a teenager. Ahab's son was a teenager and was left in a hot desert. Abraham said a final goodbye to this Ahab and this Ahab's son, a teenager, a goodbye, and he sent them away. Read verse 15 to 16. It says, when the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes, and she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And as she sat there, she began to sob. She began to weep bitterly. What the Bible says is that after she was sent away, she was actually chased away by Sarah and sent away by Abraham. This Ahab, though she walked proudly, maybe her son, maybe he mocked Isaac very badly, don't know. Somehow these two people were chased away from their home. They were to move from one situation to another situation. Till that point of time, everything was fine, well and good. But now they are forced to do things that they weren't familiar with. The desert things weren't familiar with anyone. But see, they are traveling to a desert now. Now, Abraham and Sarah just chased them away, sent them far away. And Ahab, took her son along with the food and the water skin, and she now travels inside the desert. And now at a particular point of time, we see at the 15 and 16, the water was over. So what Abraham gave back at home was emptied. Now no water is there, and in the desert, can anyone find water? Hot desert. Maybe in the oasis we can find water, but till then they did not know where water is, or what kind of water will be there available, or is there a water? No clue. And throughout the place, till her eyes sees, nothing is there. No possibilities of water, oasis, nothing. So it was a hot desert, and her son is crying for water out of thirst, and she just don't know what to do. Now Ahar and her child was alone in the desert. So we see they were just emptied and nothing there. So she placed the child in the bush. In the deserts we find some few bushes here and there. For many kilometers there would be one or two. So she found a bush and kept under the bush her son for the shade, so that that son would not die of a heat stroke. She kept there, and she came a very few distance away, and she sat on few distance, and she cried, telling that I cannot see my child dying of thirst or heat. So he is very painful. He is crying a lot. So Ahab was filled with tears, and she couldn't control her emotions. So even though Ahab was a servant of Abraham and Sarah, she bore a child to him in the ancient times, in the old times. So we see servant can become master's wife. It was allowed in the ancient times. So if the master's husband and wife, they do not have a child, they can bore a child from the servant. Through the servant they can do. So that was acceptable at that point of time. And many countries also practice this. So that was common practice. Today it is totally banned. So this child of Ahar is Abraham's son. Even though Ahar was a servant, he is Abraham's son. And not just Isaac alone a son, but before Isaac, Ahar's son was the first one. So now this teenager, Ahar's son, and Ahar was in the desert. So there was no water, no hope, no strength inside of them. Ahar, as a mother, felt very bad looking at the worst situation which her child faced now. She cries and she screams. She wept bitterly in the loud voice. She said, I cannot watch my boy die in this hot desert. So in such worst situation, now we see a wonderful thing happening there. In verse 17 we see, for God heard the boy crying, and the angel of the Lord called to Ahar from heaven and said to her, what is the matter, Ahar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. God heard the boy crying. Ahar and his son and her son was very far away from their home, previous situation, previous place. But now they are in the desert. So after in between they were crying and asking for help, seeking for help. God heard the boy crying. Even though Ahar bore this son to Abraham, still this teenager is Abraham's son. So God had compassion on this son, this teenager, Ahar's son. He heard both Ahar and her child's tears, their cry. And we see the angel of the Lord, called to Ahar from heaven, from above, and said to her, what is the matter, Ahar? What is that you're crying? So do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying, and as he lies there. You have placed your child there, and he is crying, and you are also crying. Now God has heard the boy's cry and your cry too. Don't be afraid. So verse 18 and 19 and 20 it says like this. Lift the boy up, the angel said, and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. 20, it says, God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. Archer means just bow and arch. That one, that person. So, this is our God. So whoever calls upon God, God hears their calling. Whoever cries to God, God hears their cry. Whoever looks unto God, God sees them. And see, such a wonderful God we have. In what all the situations that we face, He's watching and He's hearing a voice, hearing a cry. So looking at this today's message, we can draw 4 things from today's message. 4 things. When Ahar and her child, young child, that child's name is, can you guess? Huh? Isaac was born to Sarah and Abraham. What's the name of child born to Abraham and Ahar, the servant women? Ishmael. Tamil it is called Ismael, and in English it's called Ishmael. In probably in Hebrew also Ishmael. So this Ishmael, you see, that's the teenager's son. So that time Ahar was a young woman, but she was not a teenager. But that young woman bore a child, and that child now became a teenager, and that Ishmael was the one, that boy was the one who was crying there. And God heard that Ishmael's cry. So when Ishmael and her mother Ahar cried in the desert, what are the 4 things that God did was, number 1, God hears. He heard the cry. Okay? So though it was a dark desert in the sense was a completely empty desert, very hot desert, God hears. Our God hears. That's what He did in Ahar's life. She was in the desert. Nobody could hear her voice, her son's voice, right? She's in the middle of the desert. Even though she screams, she shouts louder, till a point of time, till a particular place it will be heard. None can hear her voice, her child's voice, but even in midst of that loneliness, in such worse situation, that desert, God heard the voice of Ahar and her son Ishmael. So number 1, God hears. Okay, God hears. Number 2, God consoles. So whenever we are in a situation placed like this, God first He hears a cry, then He consoles us, sending us someone like an angel, the pastor, elders, your parents, someone of your friends, like angel of God, trying to console you, trying to convince you, telling you, okay, fine, God is with you. They might give some strong words, motivating words, some encouraging words to you. So at the right time, God will send someone, as He sent an angel to Ahar and her child. He will send someone in your life, and He will console you in that situation. Number 3, God promises. What God promised was, in verse 18 it says, lift up the boy up and take him by the hand. Now God promises, telling, for I will make him into a great nation. See, even though this was a diverting part in Abraham's life and not so pleasing part in God's eyes, still God had compassion. He heard, He consoles, and He promised telling, okay, just because Abraham sent you, chased you, doesn't mean you're going to perish in this desert. Not that promise for Isaac, what all I have kept, the same thing I'm going to give it to your son Ishmael also. He is also going to become like his son, his brother, like his brother Isaac, he's also going to become a great nation. I'm also going to bless him and make him like Isaac. So the blessing of Isaac is shared now to Ishmael. So just like Isaac, he is also going to become a great nation. So that's a promise. So he makes a promise there in the wilderness. Number 4, God provides. A God doesn't stop just by hearing, just consoling, just promising. No. He provides. What he provided was, then God opened her eyes and she saw well of water. She saw a well with the water. Don't know, see, in the desert she would have searched for water, right? For few distance she would have gone and searched for water, but nothing was there till that point of time. But after God heard and consoled and promised, now suddenly God opened her eyes and she saw a well in the wilderness. So can we find any well in the wilderness, in the desert? No, it's not possible. She found a place where water can come. She found that place. God opened her eyes and God brought that. And she filled the skin bag with water and she drank and gave Ishmael the water. And the two of them went. And we see finally that boy grew up, that Ishmael grew up, and he lived in the desert and became an archer. He was good at aiming. See how worse that situation Ahar and his son Ishmael faced. So the wilderness, nothing was there. But see, in that wilderness too, God heard, God consoled them, God promised them, God provided them. 4 things God did. And can God provide, give, console, promises, that same thing today in our lives? Can God do that again? So whether you believe or not, if you are stuck in such a situation like this, in a worse situation, when you cry unto God, when you pray to God like this, God will hear our prayers. God will console in that situation. God will give promises. He makes promises in that situation. And He provides a way out in that situation. So when we hold on to God in every situation, even in the wilderness, when we hold on to Him, when we cry on to Him, when we call on to Him, He will open a way in the wilderness. Amen? Okay. As we look to the Lord in prayer, let us ask God, Lord, just hear my prayer, console me, give me promises, Lord, and provide me things so that I will go in this situation to another good situation, and I will praise you, I will worship you, and I will be a faithful testimony to you. You see, Ishmael was a Jew. Just like Isaac, the promise was shared to Ishmael, and Ishmael and his descendants became a great nation. Even now they are there. So that's how God will provide. If not, God had not heard the boys or Ahar's cry at that point, they would have perished. There would be no address or no testimony, no reading like this. But still God had compassion and did these 4 things in their lives. And God is able to do that 4 things in our lives. Let us look to the Lord in prayer.